The Black Templars are a distinguished second founding chapter originating from the gene seed of the Imperial Fists and their revered Primarch Rogel Dawn. Their legacy is deeply intertwined with the defense of Terra during the Horus Heresy, a tumultuous time that saw them rise to prominence. In the aftermath of the heresy, the Black Templars embarked on an eternal crusade, the longest ever known in the annals of the Imperium of Man. This perpetual campaign is their testament to proving unwavering loyalty to the Emperor of Mankind. Unlike most chapters of the Adeptus Astartes, the Black Templars are not adherents of the Codex Astartes. They maintain a unique organizational structure and culture distinct from their peers. Uncommonly for a Space Marine chapter, the Black Templars hold the Emperor as a god, aligning themselves closely with the Imperial Creed. Their doctrines are strict, vehemently opposing traitors, aliens, and mutants. Although they generally reject the use of psychers, they make exceptions for non-combat roles, treating astropaths and navigators with special reverence, seeing them as conduits to the divine will of the Emperor. They also stand out by not incorporating librarians into their ranks, since the catastrophic event known as the Howling. The formation of the Black Templars was marked by conflict. Rogel Dawn resisted the mandate from Rabut Gilliman, the Ultramarines' Primarch, to break up the Space Marine legions into smaller chapters. This resistance nearly led to the branding of the Imperial Fists as heretics. It was only when faced with the brink of civil war that Dawn consented, allowing the formation of new chapters, one of which was the Black Templars. Sigismund, the first High Marshal of the Black Templars, responded to this mandate by assembling a vast war fleet and commencing the greatest crusade in Space Marine history, a crusade that has persisted for 10,000 standard years. The Black Templars forsook the notion of a single homeworld. Instead, they opted for a nomadic existence, establishing chapter keeps on every conquered world. These keeps serve as bastions to monitor for treachery, launch future crusades, and recruit new warriors. Each subsequent High Marshal of the Black Templars has upheld Sigismund's legacy, perpetuating the crusade against the alien, the heretic, and the witch. They are holy crusaders, relentless in their mission to spread the Emperor's light to the darkest corners of the galaxy. The organizational structure of the Black Templars is a reflection of their crusading nature. The chapter is divided into numerous, highly mobile units known as crusades. Each crusade is commanded by a marshal, an officer equivalent to a captain in a Codex Astartes-compliant chapter, whose authority is second only to the High Marshal. Typically, the chapter is organized into no more than 3 major crusades at any given time, though this number can increase during periods of significant conflict. Within each crusade, tactical units known as fighting companies are formed. These companies are analogous to the standard Codex Astartes companies and are led by officers titled castellans, similar to lieutenants in other chapters. Upon the successful conclusion of a crusade's mission, the fighting companies may be reassigned to new objectives, merged into other ongoing crusades, or integrated into the High Marshal's household. The decision to launch a crusade can originate from the strategic deliberations of the High Marshal and senior chapter officers, or from petitions by other imperial institutions. The High Marshal often entertains requests from the highest echelons of the Imperium, including the Senatorum Imperialis, and sometimes influential inquisitors or rogue traders, although he is under no obligation to comply. The Black Templars' penchant for crusading is more than mere tradition. It is an intrinsic part of their identity. Formed from the most zealous members of the Imperial Fists, the chapter's ethos was shaped by the intense drive to continue the Great Crusade and exact retribution for the Horus Heresy's betrayals. This fervor, combined with their genetic legacy, psycho-conditioning, and a deeply ingrained sense of honor and duty, has made each Black Templar a paragon of the crusading warrior knight. Their combat doctrines emphasize close-quarters battle and a disdain for retreat, often leading them into perilous engagements to honor their fallen comrades. The Black Templars also diverge from standard Codex doctrine by integrating neophytes directly into veteran squads, facilitating their rapid indoctrination and combat training alongside seasoned warriors. The Black Templars were pioneers in the adoption of the Land Raider Crusader, a variant designed for optimal anti-infantry capabilities, which reflects their preference for close-range combat. Unlike standard Land Raiders equipped with las cannons, the Crusader model features hurricane-pattern bolters and increased troop capacity, enabling it to deliver larger squads into the heart of battle. One of the most notable aspects of the Black Templars is their defiance of the Codex Astartes restriction on the chapter's size. Their decentralized nature, with numerous crusades spread across the galaxy, makes it difficult to keep an accurate count of their numbers. Estimates suggest that the chapter may number several thousand warriors, far exceeding the typical chapter strength of 1,000 Space Marines. This significant force, if united, represents a formidable power that warrants close scrutiny by the Inquisition. In their unwavering dedication to the Emperor, the Black Templars continues to embody the spirit of eternal crusade, bringing the Emperor's justice to the farthest reaches of the galaxy and upholding the legacy of their forebearers with unyielding passion. On the eve of battle, the Emperor's champion leads the Black Templars in renewing one of the 4 vows of the chapter, each one instilling these Astartes with righteous fury that is expressed on the battlefield in different ways. These vows include: suffer not the unclean to live. The Black Templars swear to release their unclean foes, heretics, mutants, xenos and traitors, from the suffering of their lives, striking them down with great fury. Uphold the honor of the Emperor. The Black Templars uphold the Emperor's honor and face their enemies' attacks head-on rather than cower behind cover. Such is their indomitable faith that they can withstand blows that would fell even other Astartes. Abhor the witch, destroy the witch. The Black Templars' hatred of the mutant and the warp drives them into a rage in battle. Should their enemies' ranks include a psyker, they will rush to vanquish them with renewed effort. Their hatred enhances their will, making them highly resistant to psychic abilities. Accept any challenge, no matter the odds. The Black Templars swear to answer any challenge, and should an opportunity present itself, they will always charge to meet their enemies in close combat. Chapter History: Defense of Terra. During the climactic siege of Terra in the Horus Heresy, numerous champions of chaos emerged from the ranks of the traitor Marines. At this crucial juncture, Rogel Dawn, the Primarch of the Imperial Fists, designated his first captain, Sigismund, to serve as the Emperor's champion. Equipped with the finest armor and weapons that the Legion possessed, Sigismund vowed to seek out and destroy the vile champions of chaos. He fulfilled this sacred duty by challenging and defeating over 24 of these enemies in single combat, either killing them outright or banishing them back to the Immaterium. Following the Horus Heresy, a pivotal restructuring took place where the massive Space Marine legions were divided into smaller chapters, each consisting of 1,000 Astartes. This reorganization aimed to prevent any single individual from wielding the overwhelming influence that Horus had once commanded over the Space Marines. Initially, Rogel Dawn, charged with the defense of Terra, resisted the division of his legion. He clashed vehemently with Rabuta Guilliman, the Primarch of the Ultramarines, on this issue. Dawn accused Guilliman of cowardice for his absence during the defense of Terra, while Guilliman in turn accused Dawn of heresy and questioned his loyalty to the Emperor. The debate divided the remaining Primarchs. Leman Russ of the Space Wolves and Vulcan of the Salamanders sided with Dawn, opposing the division of their legions. Conversely, Jagatai Khan of the White Scars and Korax of the Raven Guard supported Guilliman's call for reorganization. The conflict escalated to the point where the Imperial Navy attacked the Imperial Fist's strike cruiser Terrible Angel. Faced with the threat of another civil war, Dawn finally acquiesced and agreed to the division of his legion. The second founding: zeal makes all things possible, duty makes all things simple. Sigismund, first captain, Legio Astartes. Imperial Fists. As part of the second founding, the Imperial Fists were divided into 4 distinct chapters. The younger warriors formed the Crimson Fists, while the hand-picked elite continued as the Imperial Fists. The specialists in orbital assaults were long thought to have formed the ranks of the Soul Drinkers chapter, a belief that was later debunked. The 4th chapter, born from the Imperial Fists, was the Black Templars. Sigismund, appointed as the first High Marshal, gathered the most fervent and devout warriors from the imperial fists. These warriors, sharing Sigismund's fervour, adopted the black and white armour that mirrored their leader's own. They embarked on an unending imperial crusade to prove their undying loyalty to the emperor. Rejecting the Codex Astartes, which Sigismund viewed as an affront to the teachings of Rogel Dawn, the Black Templars ventured into the depths of space, waging war directly against the enemies of the Imperium. Over the centuries, the chapter has diverged even further from the standard doctrines of the Adeptus Astartes. Embracing a radical faith in the Emperor as a deity, the Black Templars have cultivated a fervent zealotry and aggressiveness that unnerves many of their fellow Space Marine chapters. Despite this deviation, their commitment to eradicating the foes of humanity remains unwavering. Sigismund's vow to prove his loyalty, never resting in the prosecution of his duties against the enemies of the Emperor, has been renewed by every High Marshal since. This unbroken oath has driven the longest Space Marine crusade in the history of the Imperium. For over 10,000 years, the Black Templars have carved the authentic path of destruction through the stars, their ardour and dedication coming to the fore during the wars for Armageddon. Eternal Crusade. The Black Templars chapter is the only Space Marine chapter in existence known to still follow the Emperor's original vision of a great crusade to protect and reunite all the scattered worlds of mankind across the galaxy. Since their creation, during the second founding from the survivors of the Imperial Fists Legion, the Black Templars have waged a righteous war against the many enemies of the Imperium. Amongst many glorious crusades, some stand out. First, Black Crusade. During the First Black Crusade, a significant conflict erupted as Abaddon the Despoiler launched his first major incursion into Imperial space since the Horus Heresy. A vast fleet of Black Templars, under the command of High Marshal Sigismund, stood resolute at the Cadian Gate to repel this great threat. Sigismund, the esteemed founder of the Black Templars, had spent centuries since the chapter's inception pursuing the remnants of the traitor legions who had sought refuge in the Eye of Terror following the Great Scouring. His heroic quest was driven by a burning desire to bring justice to those who had betrayed the Emperor during the Horus Heresy. As the First Black Crusade unfolded, Sigismund, now over 1,000 Terran years old, faced his ultimate challenge. The forces of the Black Legion, led by Ezekiel Abaddon, the newly anointed War Master of Chaos, launched a ferocious assault on the Black Templars' flagship, the Eternal Crusader. Their objective was clear: to eliminate the legendary High Marshal and strike a devastating blow to the Imperium's defenders. In the midst of the battle, Sigismund and Abaddon met in single combat. The clash between the venerable Emperor's champion and the new War Master was a fierce and epic duel. Despite his advanced age, Sigismund's skill and determination shone through as he fought with unwavering resolve. He succeeded in driving his black sword deep into Abaddon's chest, inflicting a grievous wound that would leave a permanent scar on the War Master's body for the next 10,000 years. However, the toll of the battle proved too much for Sigismund. The legendary High Marshal fell in combat, slain by Abaddon. As he lay dying, Sigismund delivered a final scathing rebuke to his foe. "You will die as your weakling father died, soulless, honourless, weeping, ashamed." Though the Black Templars were ultimately forced to retreat from the engagement, the ferocity of Sigismund's defence forced the Black Legion to withdraw from the Eternal Crusader to tend to their wounded Chaos Lord and confront their other adversaries. The battle, while a tactical defeat for the Black Templars, demonstrated the indomitable spirit and enduring legacy of their founding High Marshal. The Howling the Black Templars chapter played a crucial role in quelling the Catalexis heresy by eliminating the Cacoddominus, a malevolent alien cyborg whose immense psychic powers had ensnared the minds of inhabitants across 1,300 planetary systems. This nefarious entity wielded its formidable psychic presence to exert absolute control over these worlds, bending them to its will. To end this vast psychic tyranny, the Black Templars launched a decisive campaign. They succeeded in executing the Cacoddominus, but the victory came at a terrible price. Upon its death, the Cacodemynus unleashed a devastating psychic scream that reverberated through the warp, sending shockwaves across the galaxy. This psychic backlash, amplified by the immaterial tides of the warp, incinerated the minds of 1 billion astropaths, the vital navigators of the Imperium who communicate across the vast interstellar distances using their psychic abilities. The catastrophic psychic outburst also severely disrupted the Astronomicon, the vital psychic beacon that guides Imperial ships through the treacherous currents of the warp. As a result, millions of void ships were stranded, lost in the vastness of space without the Astronomicon's guiding light. The upheaval plunged entire subsectors into chaos and barbarism as the communications and directives from the Adeptus Terra were severed. Without the central authority and coordination of the Imperium, these regions regressed into anarchy and darkness. This calamitous series of events, marked by the widespread loss of life and the descent of numerous worlds into disorder, came to be infamously known as the Howling. The name reflects the harrowing cries and the profound disruption that echoed throughout the galaxy in the aftermath of the Cacodemynus' death, serving as a grim reminder of the far-reaching consequences of psychic warfare. Wars of Apostasy. The Wars of Apostasy, also referred to by the Black Templars as the Terran Crusade, were a series of bloody conflicts against the forces of the renegade High Lord Gouge Vandir during the Age of Apostasy in the 36th millennium. This era was marked by Vandir's tyrannical rule over the Imperium, during which he wielded immense power and sowed widespread chaos. Throughout much of this period, the Black Templars remained largely detached from the internal strife of the Imperium, focusing instead on their eternal crusades against the enemies of humanity. However, their apathy towards the political turmoil came to an abrupt end when their crusade fleets returned to the Segmentum Solar, only to find that their cherished chapter keeps had been obliterated by orbital bombardments. These attacks were executed by the Ecclesiarchy's militant arm, the Frateris Templar, under Vandir's orders. Outraged by this betrayal, High Marshal Sigonandus of the Black Templars declared in the year 378 of 36 millennium that a crusade would be launched against Vandir himself on Terra. This crusade was not only a campaign for retribution, but also a battle to restore the sanctity of the Imperium. The Black Templars, allied with their progenitor chapter, the Imperial Fists, alongside the Soul Drinkers, the Fervent Firehawks, and units from the Martian Tech Guard. This formidable coalition brought the fight directly to the heart of the Imperium. Their combined forces besieged the vast ecclesiarchal palace on Terra, the stronghold from which Vandir orchestrated his despotic reign. The climax of the crusade saw the forces of Vandir crumbling under the relentless assault. Ultimately, the end of Vandir's tyranny came not from the outside invaders, but from within his own ranks. Alicia Dominica, a former member of Vandir's personal bodyguard and later the revered founder of the Adepta Sororitas, struck the final blow. Her act of retribution marked the conclusion of the Wars of Apostasy, sealing Vandir's fate and ending his oppressive regime. The Terran Crusade, as remembered by the Black Templars, stands as a testament to their unyielding resolve and their readiness to defend the Imperium from internal threats just as fiercely as they do against external foes. The siege and eventual overthrow of Vandir's power were pivotal in restoring order during one of the most turbulent periods in the history of the Imperium, the Second Purging of Lastrati. The Second Purging of Lastrati took place in the year 543 of the 36th millennium during the broader Athalor Crusade led by Marshal Gervart of the Black Templars. Lastrati, a planet renowned for its devout pilgrimages, had long been a beacon for the faithful who journeyed to witness its famed sights like the Hill of Heretics and the Plain of Purity. The Black Templars, under Marshal Gervart, arrived on Lastrati with the intent to draw inspiration from the planet's historical demonstrations of faith. However, they were appalled by the abhorrent transformation that had taken place. The once holy sites had become centers for grotesque blood rituals and human sacrifices, all performed in a twisted quest for genetic perfection. To the Black Templars, these horrific practices bore an unsettling resemblance to the vile chaos cult rituals dedicated to the ruinous powers. Marshal Gervart swiftly decreed that Lestrate's corrupted populace must be purged to cleanse the planet of its degeneracy before the crusade could continue. Over the course of 4 standard years, the Black Templars engaged in relentless combat against the inhabitants of Lestrate. The final battle saw the remaining defenders driven back to the plane of purity, where they made their desperate last stand at the Hill of Heretics. There, the Black Templars decisively crushed the forces of Lestrate, eradicating their army and putting an end to the planet's descent into heresy. The Garrulous Crusade. The Garrulous Crusade was a pivotal military campaign initiated by the Black Templars, led by their High Marshal Ludoldus. This crusade targeted the Garrulous star system, a previously isolated and self-sufficient region rediscovered by the Imperium on the distant fringes of the galaxy in the late 39th millennium. For many centuries, Garrulous had thrived independently, and its inhabitants were resistant to the influence and control of the Imperium. Initial efforts to integrate the system into the imperial fold were met with staunch defiance. The first missionaries dispatched by the Missionaria Galaxia were brutally executed, a clear message of the system's rejection of imperial rule. Determined to bring Garrulous into compliance, a second contingent of imperial priests returned, this time escorted by the strong warriors of the Black Templars. Under the command of High Marshal Ludoldus, the Black Templars launched a series of aggressive operations against the rebellious worlds of Garrulous, achieving significant victories over the system's defences. However, the campaign reached a critical impasse when the Templars encountered the heavily fortified hive cities of Garrulous itself. These sprawling urban fortresses proved exceedingly difficult to penetrate. Despite numerous assaults, the Templars were consistently repelled, suffering substantial casualties in their attempts to breach the formidable defences. The breakthrough came from an unexpected quarter. The Black Templars' artificer Simagus devised a groundbreaking innovation that would turn the tide of the crusade, the Land Raider Crusader. This new variant of the venerable Land Raider was specially engineered to break through enemy fortifications and deliver squads of Astartes directly into the heart of the battle. The Land Raider Crusader was equipped with impressive firepower and heavily reinforced armour, allowing it to smash through the robust defences of the Garrulous hive cities. Its ability to transport and deploy Astartes directly into the thick of the fighting provided the Black Templars with the tactical advantage they needed. With these new machines at their disposal, the Black Templars could finally overcome the resistance of the Garrulous defenders. The hive cities fell one by one as the Crusaders surged through their gates, bringing the system under imperial control. The success of the Garrulous Crusade not only solidified the Black Templars' reputation as unyielding warriors of the Imperium, but also marked the Land Raider Crusader as a legendary weapon in their arsenal. Assault on Cephian IV. In the year 343 of the 37th millennium, the Black Templars liberated the world of Cephian IV from the grip of the Alpha Legion. In the aftermath of this victory, they established a chapter keep in the northern chain of the Harakeh Mountains. This fortress served as a strategic base for launching further crusades into the treacherous Ghoul stars and beyond. Over the span of 4 millennia, the keep became a vital fixture on Cephian IV, always hosting at least one Crusader squad and serving as a crucial recruiting ground. The planet's fierce martial culture provided a steady stream of neophytes eager to prove their worth and join the ranks of the Black Templars. In the early years of the 37th millennium, Castellan Uliquel's Thunder Crusade fleet arrived in orbit above Cephian IV. Their mission was to gather fresh neophytes to bolster their forces in quelling a series of chaos cultist uprisings within the Dominion of Storms. Chaplain Devlin, the Castellan overseeing the chapter keep, assessed the readiness of the neophytes and subjected them to an intensified final trial by fire deep within the Harakeh Mountains. Unknown to the Black Templars, the Alpha Legion had not forgotten Cephian IV. They had sown seeds of discord among the planet's populace, and forged sinister alliances with the Drukhari to divert the Templars' attention from their true objectives. As the surviving neophytes completed their grueling trial, they were being escorted back to their transports by seasoned initiates of the Chapter Keep. It was during this return journey that the Drukhari struck. Launching a swift and deadly assault, the Dark Eldar sought to capture the new recruits as slaves and eliminate the Chapter Keep's defenders. The Black Templars fought with desperate ferocity to protect their charges. Chaplain Devlin and his warriors managed to escape the ambush and boarded a flyer to return to the keep. However, as they ascended, a missile streaked from the mountainside and struck the flyer, crippling its engine. The pilot sent a brief distress call before crashing in the foothills, only a few kilometers from the safety of the Chapter Keep. Immediately, a search and rescue team was dispatched to retrieve any survivors and secure the gene seed and relics of the fallen. As the Black Templars neared the crash site, they encountered a shambling horde of mutants, heretics, and traitors. The ambush had been a ploy to lure the Templars into a trap. Realizing the enemy's intention, the Templars braced for a larger confrontation. A vast host of Chaos forces, led by Alpha Legion Chaos Space Marines and a rogue psyker of immense power, launched a full-scale assault on the Chapter Keep. For several days, the Black Templars withstood relentless attacks. Their heavy weaponry and fortified positions inflicted devastating losses on the enemy, who fell in their thousands. Despite the immense pressure, the Black Templars held firm, demonstrating their indomitable spirit and unwavering resolve. Recognizing the need to end the siege swiftly, Chaplain Devlin devised a bold plan. He led a strike force deep into the heart of the enemy's formation to eliminate their leaders. In the ensuing battle, Devlin personally killed the rogue psyker, while the Emperor's champion heroically destroyed a Chaos Defiler in single combat. The Black Templars' tenacity and martial prowess ultimately turned the tide. The forces of Chaos, deprived of their leadership and facing unyielding resistance, began to falter and retreat. Seizing the moment, the Black Templars launched a final counterattack, driving their enemies from the field. They showed no mercy to the retreating foes, ensuring that none who had dared to oppose them survived. The Declates Crusade. The Declates Crusade was a monumental imperial campaign waged against the legendary Orc Gitsmot by the combined forces of the Crimson Fists and Black Templars Space Marine chapters. This war erupted in the densely populated Declate system, where the Orc horde, led by warboss Gitsmot, had swept through planet after planet, leaving devastation in its wake. Initially, the Crimson Fists saw significant victories, managing to push back the Green Horde and reclaim territory. However, the Orcs' inexhaustible numbers soon began to turn the tide. The Xenos horde surged forward with renewed ferocity, threatening to overrun the crucial Forge world of Declates 4 and the sprawling hive cities on Declates 5. The situation became dire, and the people of Declates sent out a desperate call for reinforcements. In response, the Black Templars answered this plea for help, arriving in force to bolster the beleaguered Crimson Fists. As a testament to their unity and resolve against the seemingly endless Orc threat, warriors from both chapters began to fight side by side, often in mixed squads, and even exchanged elements of their heraldry to symbolize their solidarity. The combined might of the Crimson Fists and Black Templars turned the progress of the battle. Together, they spearheaded daring assaults deep into Orc-held territories, aiming to strike at the heart of the enemy's command structure. Their strenuous efforts culminated in a climactic engagement where they managed to locate and kill the warboss Gitsmot. The death of the warboss threw the Orc forces into disarray, letting Imperium be the victor. Despite their triumph, the campaign came at a steep price. Both the Crimson Fists and Black Templars suffered grievous losses as they faced wave after wave of Orc assaults. Yet their sacrifice and bravery earned them eternal honor within the Declate system. The valiant Astartes of both chapters are celebrated as heroes, their deeds during the Declates Crusade remembered as a shining example of courage and brotherhood in the face of overwhelming adversity. The Empyrean Crusade. The Empyrean Crusade was a daring campaign initiated by the Black Templars' Space Marines against a formidable force of Khornate chaos cults on the planet Empyrean 9. This force consisted of over 4,000 traitorous soldiers from the renegade 24th Gathalamor Astra Militarum Regiment, bolstered by mutineers from Gurion and a contingent of armoured cavalry. The Black Templars' strike force, commanded by Castellan Athalenas, numbered only 30. Faced with overwhelming odds and insufficient ammunition to hold off the heretical horde, Athalenas devised a bold strategy that relied on his troops' unwavering discipline and willingness to execute his orders without hesitation, regardless of how difficult they might be to follow. Rather than engaging the cultists head-on, Athalenas ordered a continuous tactical withdrawal, a maneuver designed to deny the bloodthirsty followers of Khorne the opportunity to satisfy their violent cravings. This constant retreat provoked the Khornate cultists into a state of frenzied rage, as their insatiable desire for bloodshed grew more intense with each denied skirmish. Driven to madness by their unquenched bloodlust, the Khornate forces eventually turned on themselves in an uncontrollable orgy of violence. The once cohesive unit of traitors and cultists descended into chaos, slaughtering one another in a desperate fit to sate their thirst for blood. This internal carnage effectively neutralized the ground threat posed by the Khornate warband. With the ground forces decimated by their own hand, the Black Templars' strategy came to its final phase. 2 Black Templars strike cruisers arrived in orbit around Empyrean 9, targeting the heretics' vessel. The cruisers unleashed their firepower, ensuring that no surviving Chaos forces could escape to spread further destruction across the Imperium. The Empyrean Crusade concluded with the total annihilation of the Khornate heretics. Castellan Athalenas' cunning and the unyielding resolve of his Black Templars had turned a desperate situation into a resounding victory, preventing the Khornate warband from wreaking further havoc in the galaxy. The Achilles Crusade. Given the Black Templars' esteemed reputation as relentless crusaders, it might come as a surprise that they were not initially involved in the launch of the Achilles Crusade into the Jericho Reach. The reasons behind their absence are rooted in the complex interplay of rivalry and feudalism that characterizes the interactions among the Imperium's major institutions. These details are known only to a select few among the highest ranks of the Crusade staff. When the Achilles Crusade was first conceptualized, its planners sought the imperative support of the Black Templars. The task of approaching the chapter fell to a fervent prelate imperialis named Nadab Saul. Unfortunately, Saul's arrogance overshadowed his mission. Instead of humbly requesting the Black Templars' assistance, he issued demands. Rather than appealing to their sense of duty, he berated them. He threatened them with disgrace instead of offering the promise of glory. The only recorded account of what transpired during this ill-fated meeting was captured by the engram cortex of a servocherub accompanying the envoy. Saul's confrontation ended with him being forcibly removed by enraged Black Templars, furiously accusing them of being traitors to the Emperor and vowing retribution for their supposed cowardice. What exactly happened to Saul afterward remains a mystery, shrouded by sealed inquiries and unanswered questions. He was never seen or heard from again. In the ensuing years, 2 related chapters, the Imperial Fists and the Crimson Fists, sent strike forces to join the Crusade. Through the involvement of these forces, along with Black Templars serving in the Death Watch, communication between the Crusade High Command and the Black Templars High Marshal was re-established. Upon his elevation to Lord Militant, Tetrarchus personally drafted a new petition to the Black Templars, seeking their participation in the upcoming offensives. This time he carefully worded his request, mindful of the previous insult. With the backing of the Imperial Fists and Crimson Fists, the appeal was successful. On the eve of a big offensive, in the Acheros salient, Castellan Raymer's fighting company joined the Achilles Crusade. Leading the charge, the Black Templars achieved a series of early victories, although these successes were largely confined to local engagements and did not reflect the broader conflict across the salient. Raymer's company swiftly advanced through the regions around the Blood Trinity, culminating in the daring boarding of the space hulk known as the Scion of Desecration. Raymer and his sword brethren took control of the massive vessel, directing it into an enemy-held orbital station. The resulting destruction was catastrophic, reportedly obliterating 500,000 servants of chaos and triggering tectonic upheavals on the planet below. Despite these initial triumphs, the Black Templars' victories were exceptions during the opening weeks of the Aculus Salient campaign. Soon, Raymer's forces found themselves dangerously overextended and at risk of being encircled by a vigorous enemy counterattack. Faced with overwhelming opposition, Lord Tetrarchus ordered a strategic withdrawal back towards Karlak and the fortress worlds of the Iron Collar. The Space Marine contingents, including the Black Templars, played a crucial role in this massive rearguard action, preventing the retreat from becoming a devastating rout. True to their reputation for valor and resilience, the Black Templars were the last to withdraw, holding their ground until they had no choice but to retreat. As darkness fell over the Aculus Salient, the last vessel to translate from the warp on the fringes of the Karlak system was the strike cruiser Ophidian Gulf, carrying Raymer and his warriors. Behind them, only the encroaching tides of chaos remained. Shortly after these events, Raymer's company was recalled by the chapter in preparation for a new mission in Garan, a deployment that would rise to the status of a full crusade. Since then, the Black Templars have not committed further forces to the Jericho Reach, with the High Marshal deeming the Aculus Crusade to have stagnated into a war of attrition, unworthy of the Black Templars' continued involvement. The Slaughter on Schrödinger 7. In the year 930 of the 41st millennium, the frozen expanses of the imperial ice world Schrödinger 7 became the battleground for a devastating conflict against the forces of the Necron overlord Imhotep the Stormlord. Imhotep, the pharaoh of the mighty Sautek dynasty, launched an assault upon the planet, forcing the local defenders to retreat into the intricate cryonite mines that dotted the landscape. Despite the fierce resistance, the Necrons could not prevent the planet's astropathic choir from sending out a desperate distress signal. The call for aid was answered by a swift response from a Black Templars strike force led by Marshal Helbrecht. Undeterred by the harsh, icy terrain, Helbrecht's forces descended upon Schrödinger 7, prepared for a decisive retaliation. However, Imhotep had anticipated their arrival and had strategically positioned his forces into a nearly impregnable defense. Marshal Helbrecht spearheaded the assault, planning to deliver a devastating initial strike that would cripple the Necron forces. Yet, his strategy was met with a series of meticulously orchestrated Necron ambushes at the Drop Pod and Thunderhawk landing zones. The icy caverns reverberated with the deafening roar of explosions as the battle unfolded. Both Black Templars and Necrons were thrown into the perilous rivers of molten cryonite by the force of the blasts. The climax of the battle saw Helbrecht and Imhotep face off in a brutal hand-to-hand duel atop an ice bridge laden with heavy stalactites. The ferocity of their combat was unparalleled, with Helbrecht landing a dozen punishing blows upon the Necron overlord. However, each strike was met with Imhotep's swift recovery, allowing him to counter-attack with equal force. The lasting onslaught eventually took its toll on Helbrecht, who fell under the weight of his injuries, his blood staining the icy surface. In a moment that would haunt Helbrecht, Imhotep chose not to deliver a killing blow. Instead, the Necron overlord brought his scythe down upon Helbrecht's right hand, severing it to mark the Marshal's well-deserved defeat. As Helbrecht roared in agony and rage, Imhotep coldly pitched him off the bridge to the cavern floor below. The remaining Black Templars, galvanized by their Marshal's fall, fought fiercely to retrieve their wounded leader. They gathered around the fallen Helbrecht and executed a disciplined retreat, battling their way through the Necron forces. Despite their valor, they were ultimately forced to abandon Schrödinger 7, leaving it under the dominion of Imhotep the Stormlord. The Third War for Armageddon. The Third War for Armageddon was a colossal struggle between the Imperium of Man and the largest orc since the legendary War of the Beast. This conflict was spearheaded by the infamous Orc warlord Gazkul Mag Uruk Thraka. The Black Templars played a pivotal role in the defense of Armageddon, with Chaplain Grimaldus being given the critical task of leading the Hellsreach Crusade. Grimaldus, along with 100 battle brothers, was charged with defending Hellsreach Hive, one of the planet's most vital industrial centers. The defense of Hellsreach was a joint effort. The Black Templars were supported by the regiments of the Armageddon Steel Legion, numerous Astra Militarum forces, and 19 mighty Titans from the Legio Invigilata. Civilian militias also took up arms, and the valiant 97 Battle Sisters of the Order of the Argent Shroud joined the defense as well. As the Orc horde descended upon Hellsreach, the defenders engaged in fierce combat, battling the greenskins in brutal close-quarters fighting. The fighting was relentless, and the defenders of Hellsreach had to hold their ground against the overwhelming numbers of orcs that seemed to never cease their assault. Under Grimaldus's leadership, the Black Templars and their allies fought tooth and nail to protect the Hive from total annihilation. The battle saw tremendous acts of bravery and sacrifice, as the defenders gave everything to hold back the Orc tide. The Orcs unleashed wave after wave of attacks, but the combined might and determination of the Imperium's forces kept them at bay. Despite the ferocity of the Orc assault, the defenders of Hellsreach managed to prevent the Hive's destruction. Gazakul's grand plans to conquer the strategic Hive world were thwarted for the second time. Faced with staunch resistance and painful losses, the warlord was eventually forced to abandon his campaign on Armageddon. Gazkul fled the world, seeking other opportunities to spread chaos and destruction within the Imperium. In the aftermath of the war, High Marshal Helbrecht, the leader of the Black Templars, joined forces with the legendary Commissar Yarrick, known as the Orcs' greatest nemesis. Together, they swore a solemn oath to continue their pursuit of Gazkul Thraka. Helbrecht vowed not to rest until the Orc warlord was hunted down and slain, ensuring that the greenskin menace would never again threaten the Imperium. Solemnus Crusade. The Solemnus Crusade was launched under the command of Marshal Brandt in response to a grievous assault on the Black Templars' Chapter Keep on the world of Solemnus. This devastating blow was orchestrated by the Orc warlord Morkrul Grimskar, a brutal chieftain of the Bloodscar Orc tribe. Determined to exact vengeance, the Solemnus Crusade set out, joining the broader war effort on the embattled planet of Armageddon with the primary objective of hunting down the elusive warlord. Tragically, the Crusade encountered significant setbacks when Emperor's champion Ansgar was captured during a fierce engagement with Grimskar. Though the Black Templars came agonizingly close to eliminating the Orc warlord, Grimskar survived his injuries. Worse still, he was resurrected as a cyborg, his body augmented with mechanical enhancements that gave him renewed strength and vitality. Adding to the Templars' humiliation, many of the cybernetic components used to reconstruct Grimskar were scavenged from stolen Black Templars' war gear. In response to Ansgar's capture and the desecration of their equipment, the Black Templars' dreadnought Gerald organized a specialized strike force, aptly named Ansgar's Avengers. Their mission was to find the captured Emperor's champion and reclaim the revered black sword and armor of faith that he had borne into battle. Despite their efforts, the strike force's initial attempt to rescue Ansgar was unsuccessful. However, during their mission they made an interesting discovery. They found the Crimson Fist's venerable dreadnought Rhodomanus, who had been missing in the icy wastes of the Deadlands since the Second War for Armageddon. In their quest, Gerald's team also managed to destroy an Orc Stomper, a massive war machine that had been recently uncovered from the ice. This Stomper had originally been built during the Second War for Armageddon, and if reactivated, could have posed a staunch threat to the Imperial forces. By preventing this war machine from joining the Orc war effort, the strike force scored a vital victory. Despite these achievements, the mission was far from over. Ansgar's Avengers, and the broader Solemnus Crusade remained steadfast in their campaign, continuously pursuing Morkrul Grimscar across the war-torn landscapes of Armageddon. Their ongoing objective is to locate and destroy the warlord, rescue Emperor's champion Ansgar, and restore the honor of the Black Templars. 13th Black Crusade. The 13th Black Crusade, orchestrated by the malevolent Chaos Lord Abaddon the Despoiler, marked the most extensive mobilization of Imperial and Chaos forces in the Milky Way galaxy since the dark days of the Horus Heresy. This cataclysmic conflict erupted near the Imperial fortress world of Cadia, signaling the commencement of the long-dreaded 13th Black Crusade. At the forefront of the Imperium's response were the Black Templars, who swiftly moved to relieve the embattled world of Thracian Primaris. The Templars launched a decisive attack, dispersing the Chaos Warfleet with relative ease. Following this victory, they executed a smooth and uncontested planetfall outside the massive logistical support complex managed by the Departamento Munitorum in Hive Demeter. Though the citizens of Thracian Primaris hailed the Templars as their saviors, the Black Templars did not linger. Their focus remained firmly fixed on their primary objective: to pursue and repel the forces of chaos back to the Eye of Terror. As they departed from Thracian Primaris, the Templars received alarming intelligence about a burgeoning threat in the Scarus sector, the Green Crusade of the notorious Orc warlord Gazkul Mag Uruk Thraka. Although the Black Templars were severely depleted from the grueling battles on Thracian Primaris, they recognized the urgent need to confront the growing greenskin menace. They understood that allowing the Orcs to regroup and bolster their ranks unchecked would spell disaster for the Scarus sector. With this grim understanding, the Black Templars resolutely set course for the Scarus sector, prepared to engage Gajakul's forces and thwart his burgeoning campaign. Despite their diminished numbers, their determination was unyielding. They knew that the fate of countless worlds hinged on their ability to confront and disrupt the Orc war effort before it could fully manifest. Their journey from Thracian Primaris to the Scarus sector was more than just a strategic redeployment. It was a testament to the indomitable spirit and unwavering resolve of the Black Templars. They were driven not by the desire for glory, but by their solemn duty to protect the Imperium and destroy its enemies, no matter the cost. Ruthenian Crusade, Taladus War. The Ruthenian Crusade represents a bold and strategic campaign undertaken by the Black Templars, initiated in the turbulent era Indomitus following the emergence of the Great Rift. Commanded by Castellan Dramos, this crusade aimed to defend the beleaguered Taladus system from a crushing assault by the forces of chaos, including a formidable coalition of 6 traitor legions under the leadership of the word-bearer's dark apostle Cor Pharon. The Taladus system was under siege, its fortress world of Gredask becoming a critical battleground. The Iron Warriors, known for their mastery of siege warfare, had encircled Gredask's nearly impregnable citadel, the Fortress Resolve. They relentlessly bombarded its shield walls while their demonic allies surged against the defenders. Dramos, arriving with his Gladius strike force, quickly assessed the dire situation through tactical updates broadcast from the polar stronghold. Amongst the chaos, Dramos identified the true menace, the soul harvester Scarax Crond. This infernal demon forge, churning out reinforcements for the chaos forces, was the linchpin of the traitors' assault. As long as it remained operational, the Iron Warriors could replenish their numbers indefinitely, tipping the scales irreversibly in their favour. Dramos devised a bold plan to cripple the Soul Harvester. His strategy involved a multifaceted strike, combining the brute strength of the Imperial Knights from House Morton and the surgical precision of the Black Templars. House Morton, led by the formidable Sir Dirkwald, launched their fortified Bullocklanders through waves of flak fire to mount a frontal attack on the Soul Harvester. While the Knights drew the Iron Warriors' attention, squads of Inceptors from Strikeforce Dawnhammer descended upon the Soul Harvester like living meteors. They breached the atmosphere and targeted the pulsating shell of the Scarax Crond with pinpoint accuracy. Their demolition charges tore through the flesh-metal carapace of the Soul Harvester, even as they fended off fire-spitting helldrakes. Castellan Dramos personally led the charge into the heart of the Soul Harvester. Accompanied by a retinue of seasoned veteran crusaders, he navigated the nightmarish innards of the Iron Behemoth. The Black Templars faced fierce resistance from the Iron Warriors, suffering grievous losses as they fought their way deeper into the mechanical monstrosity. Despite the brutal opposition, Dramos and his command squad managed to plant and detonate a cyclonic charge at the core of the Soul Harvester. The ensuing warp explosion ripped through the Soul Harvester, consuming both loyalists and heretics in its fiery wake. The explosion obliterated the assembly halls and charnel factories, causing the Scarax Krond to convulse and lash out like a mortally wounded beast. Despite the devastating blow, the demon-infused furnaces of the Soul Harvester proved resilient and continued to burn. Dramos's heroic self-sacrifice granted the defenders of Gredas precious time, stalling the Chaos Assault and providing a brief respite for the planet's beleaguered defenders. However, the ultimate fate of Gredas hung precariously in the balance, with the outcome of the war still uncertain. Chapter structure. The Black Templars are a unique second founding Space Marine chapter that emerged from the Imperial Fist's gene seed. Unlike many other chapters, they do not have a permanent homeworld. Instead, they reside within their crusade fleets, perpetually ready for battle. Their existence is characterized by vigilance and a constant state of readiness. To support their nomadic lifestyle, the Black Templars' established chapter keeps on every world they conquer or reclaim for the Imperium. These keeps serve as recruitment centers and staging posts for their crusade fleets, which operate across the galaxy. When the Templars vacate these keeps, they often leave them unoccupied, only to return and reclaim them later, usually eliminating any interlopers who have taken residence in their absence. Each Black Templar Crusade fleet is commanded by an officer bearing the title of Marshal, equivalent to a captain or force commander in a Codex Astartes-compliant chapter. The overall leader of the chapter, known as the High Marshal, currently High Marshal Helbrecht, travels between these crusades on his flagship, the battle barge Eternal Crusader. Typically, there are at least 3 Black Templar crusades active at any given time. During certain periods, such as the treachery of Dalmark, as many as 14 crusades have been recorded. Each crusade can vary in size, from 100 Space Marines and their fleet support to the equivalent of several standard Codex Astartes companies. It is believed that only the High Marshal knows the true number of Black Templars. However, it is rumored within the Inquisition that their numbers approach 6,000 Space Marines. If accurate, this would make them nearly as mighty as some of the original first founding Space Marine legions after the Horus Heresy. This substantial force places the Black Templars among the few chapters, alongside the Space Wolves and Grey Knights, that likely exceed the Codex Astartes prescribed limit of 1,000 Space Marines per chapter. Such a vast and united force would be nearly unstoppable in the current era of the Imperium. The potential size of the Black Templars has attracted scrutiny from some Puritan members of the Inquisition. These inquisitors are concerned because ancient tradition and orders from the Imperial Regent Robut Guilliman, issued after the Horus Heresy, mandate that no one can command enough military power to stage a rebellion against the Emperor. Despite this scrutiny, the Black Templars' unwavering loyalty to the Emperor and the lack of concrete evidence regarding their exact numbers have spared them from more intense investigation. However, this has not deterred the Inquisition from attempting to uncover the chapter's true strength. In larger crusades, multiple fighting companies are organized, each led by a sword brethren who has been elevated to the rank of Castellan, akin to a lieutenant in a Codex-compliant chapter. The most significant crusades are personally overseen by the High Marshal, as seen during the Armageddon Crusade in the Third War for Armageddon. Unlike the strict organizational structure outlined in the Codex Astartes, the Black Templars squads form and disband as needed. They tend to fight together based on familiarity and camaraderie rather than formal organization. Informal squads generally consist of 5 to 10 initiates, fully trained Black Templar battle brothers, and can include up to an equal number of neophytes, Black Templars in training. These squads lack designated sergeants, as experienced members are quickly promoted to the rank of sword brethren, who act as non-commissioned officers. Due to their preference for close-quarters combat, the Black Templars rarely employ heavy-ranged weapons, making Devastator squads a rarity within the chapter. One of the most notable deviations of the Black Templars from Codex Astartes compliant chapters, including their progenitors, the Imperial Fists, is their intense aversion to mutants and their inherent distrust of the warp and its associated powers. Consequently, the chapter does not employ librarians and maintains no librarius. The only psykers they ally with are the Grey Knights, renowned for their unyielding incorruptibility and direct genetic link to the Emperor. This extreme distaste for psykers typically prevents the Black Templars from cooperating with anyone tainted by the Empyrean. However, the Grey Knights are an exception. The Black Templars consider it an honor to fight alongside these Astartes, chosen directly by the Emperor and bearing a part of his genetic legacy, who have never succumbed to Chaos's temptations, a claim even the zealous Black Templars cannot make. The Black Templars' stringent stance on psykers poses a challenge for those chosen to serve in the Death Watch, where they must adapt to fighting alongside librarians from other chapters within a kill team. Crusaders' ranks. The Black Templars' order of battle contains several specialist formations and ranks not present in other Space Marine chapters who follow the precepts of the Codex Astartes. The High Marshal is the paramount leader of the Black Templars chapter, holding a position equivalent to the chapter master in other Space Marine chapters that adhere to the Codex Astartes. This title denotes a warrior of unparalleled prowess, a veteran of innumerable battles whose skill with bolters, blades, and even bare hands is unmatched. The High Marshal's career is marked by a trail of defeated foes, often the most fearsome and monstrous the galaxy has to offer. Yet being the High Marshal requires more than just exceptional combat abilities. The role demands a master tactician and strategist, someone whose expertise is not only rooted in extensive training and study, but also in the harsh crucible of countless battlefield decisions. Each High Marshal embodies the collective wisdom of previous leaders, sharpened by personal experience in the heat of conflict. Beyond martial and strategic acumen, the High Marshal is deeply versed in the lore and traditions of the Black Templars. He is entrusted with all the chapter's secrets and carries the weight of its legacy. As the ultimate authority over the chapter's ceaseless crusades, the High Marshal oversees their progress, determining their strategic objectives and guiding their deployment across the galaxy. Occasionally, the High Marshal's role transcends strategic oversight as he directly influences the morale and performance of the Crusades with his presence. His visits are rare and highly significant, providing direct inspiration and rallying the Templars to even greater acts of valor. The autonomy of the High Marshal within the Imperium is extraordinary. Unlike many military leaders who must answer to the High Lords of Terror, the High Marshal exercises considerable independence. He alone decides where his forces will strike, free from external command or interference. This autonomy allows the High Marshal to direct the Black Templars' relentless crusades against the enemies of the Emperor, making strategic decisions solely based on his judgment and the needs of the chapter. In essence, the High Marshal is not only the foremost warrior of the Black Templars, but also their supreme commander and custodian of their storied heritage, wielding unmatched power and responsibility within the Imperium. Marshals are the distinguished and formidable leaders who command the individual crusades of the Black Templars, equivalent in rank to the captains found in Codex Astartes compliant chapters. These seasoned Space Marines exhibit exceptional tactical prowess and are second only to the High Marshal in terms of experience and battlefield acumen. The role of a marshal is of utmost importance as they are entrusted with the sanctity and success of their crusade. This responsibility is both sacred and glorious, requiring a leader who is not only a peerless warrior, capable of facing and defeating almost any foe in combat, but also adept in matters that extend beyond the immediate conflicts of the battlefield. Leading a crusade is a monumental task, demanding strategic foresight, logistical expertise, and the ability to inspire and unite their forces. Therefore, only those Space Marines who have demonstrated unparalleled valor, determination and leadership within the ranks of the Sword Brethren, or as a Castellan commanding a fighting company, are eligible to ascend to the rank of Marshal. These Marshals are tasked with the coordination and command of the Space Marines under their leadership, ensuring that their crusades achieve their ultimate objectives regardless of the opposition they face. Their role is not merely to fight, but to guide their forces through the complexities of war, adapting to the ever-changing circumstances of battle to lead their crusades to glorious victory. In essence, Marshals embody the ideal of the Black Templar warrior leader, combining unrivaled martial skill with the strategic and inspirational qualities necessary to command their crusades. They stand as pillars of strength and resolve, leading their brethren through the fires of war with unwavering dedication to their sacred duty. The rank of Castellan is a distinguished and specialized position, unique to the Black Templars chapter, paralleling the role of a Space Marine lieutenant in Codex Astartes compliant chapters. A Castellan is entrusted with the command of an entire fighting company within the chapter, leading them into the thick of battle during the various ongoing crusades of the Black Templars. In larger crusades, which may encompass several of the chapter's fighting companies, each company is led by a member of the Sword Brethren, elevated to the rank of Castellan. These esteemed officers are selected from the chapter's veterans, chosen for their unwavering devotion and exceptional leadership abilities. Their journey to this revered position is marked by dedication and a fervent commitment to the chapter's sacred mission. Castellans are seasoned warriors who have proven their mettle on countless battlefields. Their tactical acumen is second to none, allowing them to keenly interpret the ebb and flow of combat and adapt their formations with precision. These leaders command respect and loyalty, guiding their Space Marines not only through their commands, but also by their example on the front lines. The role of a Castellan extends beyond mere leadership in combat. They embody the very essence of what it means to be a Black Templar, a dedicated warrior upholding the legacy of Sigismund and the Emperor. Through their actions and decisions, they impart invaluable lessons in the art of war and the brutal craft of dealing death to the Emperor's enemies. Each Castellan serves as a beacon of martial prowess and zealous fervor, inspiring their brethren to achieve greatness and to uphold the storied traditions of the Black Templars. Their leadership is not just about strategy and tactics, it's about instilling a deep sense of purpose and an unyielding commitment to the chapter's eternal crusade. The Sword Brethren are the elite warriors of a Black Templars crusade comparable to the veteran First Company of a standard Codex-compliant chapter. These exceptional fighters are inducted into the Marshal's household, signifying their elevated status within the chapter. No longer required to train neophytes, they receive additional training, particularly in the use of tactical dreadnought armor. Upon completing this specialized training, Sword Brethren don Terminator armor whenever it is available, often choosing melee weapons to complement it, as close combat is a domain where the Black Templars truly excel. Like many of their brethren, Sword Brethren typically fight alongside those they are most familiar with, rather than in strictly organized squads. They can always be found in the thickest parts of the battle, leading by example and embodying the martial prowess of the Black Templars. If a marshal of a crusade is killed or promoted to High Marshal of the chapter, one of the Sword Brethren will be elevated to fill the vacant position. This selection is determined through ritual combat among the Sword Brethren. The victor of this melee earns the right to become a marshal, subject to the approval of the High Marshal. Notably, there has been only one instance in the history of the Black Templars where the High Marshal withheld or reversed his approval, known as the Gervart Repeal of the 36th millennium. To signify their elite status, Sword Brethren often wear cream-coloured cloaks and have red trim on their black pauldrons. These distinctive markings denote their position as the finest warriors within the Black Templars, a testament to their combat skills, leadership qualities, and unwavering dedication to the Emperor's cause. During the climax of the Siege of Terra in the Horus Heresy, Captain Sigismund, the first captain of the Imperial Fists Legion, was entrusted by his Primarch Rogal Dorn to lead the ground forces. while the Emperor Dawn and Sanguinius led the charge against the traitor War Master's battle barge. Sigismund was given the title of Emperor's Champion, a designation sometimes applied to Dawn himself, thereby establishing a new tradition that the Black Templars, direct descendants of Sigismund, continue to honour. Sigismund was equipped with the best armour and weapons the Legion possessed and vowed to confront and destroy the foul champions of chaos. He sought out and challenged over 24 enemy leaders in single combat, either killing them or banishing them back to the Immaterium. His devotion to the Emperor, the Imperium and the Great Crusade made him an exemplary figure of what the Legiones Astartes could aspire to be. The oath he took as the Emperor's champion was so profound and binding that it could never be broken. Although the Emperor fell that day, Sigismund triumphed, helping to rout the enemy forces after Horus's defeat. After the heresy, the Space Marine legions were reorganized into smaller chapters. Despite initially resisting this change, Dawn eventually complied. Sigismund's unwavering fire was recognized, and he became the first High Marshal of the newly formed Black Templars. His belief in the eternal continuation of the Great Crusade became the guiding principle of the Black Templars' perpetual crusades. Since the Siege of Terror, it has become a revered tradition among the Black Templars to appoint an Emperor's champion. On the eve of battle, the Templars engage in prayer, fasting and meditation. It is common for one among them to experience a vision of their duty and future events. This battle brother then confesses his vision to the chaplains, and if found worthy, he is declared the Emperor's champion. He is then ritually prepared for battle, donned in the armour of faith, and armed with the black sword. In theory, each Black Templars crusade force has its own Emperor's champion for the duration of a campaign or protracted battle. In practice, each fighting company within the crusade may have its own champion, with each significant battle often producing a new one if one has not already emerged. Black Templars battle brothers serving with the Death Watch also pray and fast before missions, mirroring their practices within their own chapter. Occasionally, a battle brother may feel the divine certainty of their duty and take up the mantle of the Emperor's champion. Without a Black Templar's chaplain to officiate, he assumes the role alone, donning sacred relics and declaring his mission. He seeks the Master of the Armory's permission to wield the most potent weapons and armour, a request rarely denied due to the visible zeal and palpable weight of his oaths. The Emperor's champion seeks out and defeats the greatest champions and leaders of the enemy in single combat, serving as a beacon of faith that drives the Emperor's warriors to greater acts of valour. Once his vision is fulfilled and he returns to the Watch Fortress, his duty as Emperor's champion is only discharged by the chaplain's word, allowing him to resume his place among the ranks. In the Black Templars chapter, an initiate is not a new Astartes, but rather the rank held by most battle brothers until they earn promotion to the veteran status of a Sword Brethren member. Initiates perform the majority of the standard tactical roles found within Space Marine chapters. Additionally, each initiate is responsible for adopting and training a neophyte until the neophyte earns the rank of initiate. A neophyte in the Black Templars differs from those in other chapters because they have already completed the physical transformation into an Astartes by the time they achieve this rank. In Codex-compliant chapters, this would typically grant them initiate status. However, in the Black Templars, this only signifies that they are ready to commence their true training. Once deemed worthy by the chapter's chaplains and apothecaries, each neophyte is apprenticed to a full initiate, essentially serving as his squire. When the initiate feels his neophyte has gained sufficient experience and wisdom to benefit the chapter, the neophyte is promoted to initiate. The newly elevated initiate then begins the process of personally training his own neophyte, continuing the cycle. A Crusader squad is the standard tactical organization employed by the Black Templars chapter. The Black Templars are organized in a different manner compared to many Codex Astartes-compliant chapters and do not follow the dictates of the Codex in many ways, notably in the recruitment, training and deployment of their warriors. The majority of Black Templars battle brothers, known within the chapter as initiates, are organized into Crusader squads. which form the backbone of any strike force unleashed by the chapter. Many Crusader squads have the honor of being led to battle by one of the chapter's sword brethren, veterans whose deeds and example inspire the initiates to ever greater acts of courage. Crusader squads are armed primarily with the Holy Bolter, though given the Black Templars' preference for fighting their foes face to face, many choose to carry chainswords and other weapons more suited to the cut and thrust of close combat, epitomizing the Black Templars' righteous zeal and their drive to defeat their foes in battle. Chapter: Recruitment and Doctrine. As a fleet-based chapter without a homeworld, the Black Templars rely on their chapter keeps for recruiting. These keeps are established on most worlds they conquer or reclaim, serving as recruitment centers and staging grounds for crusades. Each keep recruits only a few individuals per Terran year. Only the most skilled aspirants are allowed to join, and upon passing initial tests, they are implanted with gene seed organs to begin their transformation into neophytes of the chapter. When approximately 24 neophytes are ready at a chapter keep and approved by the Castellan and the chapter's apothecaries and chaplains, they are sent to a crusade fleet for further induction. Upon arrival, the neophytes undergo rigorous trials and tasks overseen by the initiates, testing their limits to separate the strong from the weak. Unlike other Space Marine chapters, the Black Templars do not have a dedicated scout company for training their aspirants. If a neophyte impresses an initiate during the trials, the initiate may personally mentor him. The initiate assumes full responsibility for the neophyte's training and conduct, swearing an oath to prepare him for the chapter, teach him its history and guide him through its holy rites of worship to the Emperor. The neophyte, in turn, pledges obedience to his mentor and vows not to bring dishonor to his name. Neophytes also serve their mentors, attending to their needs at banquets and daily routines. They accompany their initiates into combat, and if the initiate falls, another battle brother takes up the training. The bond between initiate and neophyte is strong. If a neophyte dies, the initiate often swears a death oath to avenge his apprentice or die trying. The initiate determines when his neophyte is ready to become a full battle brother. After proving his valor and skill, the neophyte undergoes the final trials of purity overseen by the chapter's chaplains. Upon successful completion, he is ceremoniously elevated to the rank of initiate and honored with a suit of power armor, officially becoming a Black Templar. Once accepted into a Crusade's fighting company, an initiate fights alongside his Black Templar battle brothers, honing his combat skills and earning a name within the chapter. Initiates form the majority of the chapter's fighting companies, organized into crusade squads of up to 20 initiates, each armed primarily with bolters, but often carrying close combat weapons. Some squad members may wield specialized weaponry like plasma guns, flamers, or power fists. On the battlefield, initiates stand beside their neophytes, teaching them through direct combat experience. This hands-on training ensures that the neophytes learn the methods of waging war and destroying the Emperor's enemies. Though the Black Templars do not have a dedicated scout company, neophytes may be grouped into independent squads similar to Codex Scout squads or Vanguard Marines after gaining experience. These units are tasked with critical missions, such as infiltrating enemy positions. The trust placed in neophytes to undertake these tasks speaks volumes about their abilities and the faith their initiates have in them. As a crusading chapter, the Black Templars need a constant influx of new recruits to replace those lost in battle and training. Many citizens across the Imperium aspire to join the Black Templars, honing their skills in local planetary defense forces or the Astra Militarum. These aspirants, known as expectanten, have a perilous journey ahead before they can become neophytes. One of the original training planets for the Black Templars is Barbarossa 4, an agri-world with dangerous northern regions that provide a good training ground for aspirants. It is here that the chapter keep is located, where aspirants strive to prove their worth and begin their path to becoming a Black Templar. Some warriors received the Deathwatch training. Although the Black Templars chapter has temporarily left the Jericho Reach, their fighters continue to serve within the ranks of the Deathwatch, the chamber militant of the Ordo Xenos. Many of the most illustrious heroes who have undertaken their vigil at Watch Fortress Erioch hail from the Black Templars, though the records of their names and achievements are restricted to the Death Watch's annals and are accessible only to a select few. Black Templars are esteemed members of kill teams, despite their fervent passion sometimes causing friction with other members. They are known for never retreating from a challenge and are hesitant to withdraw from battle even when faced with overwhelming odds. Missions requiring stealth and surveillance might be compromised if a Black Templar battle brother chooses to engage the enemy instead of maintaining observation. Therefore, only the most disciplined and open-minded Black Templars are seconded to the Death Watch. The mental strain of tolerating the myriad chapter cults represented by the other battle brothers of the Long Watch is immense. Furthermore, living and fighting alongside psychers, whether they be detached librarians from other chapters or psychically gifted inquisitors of the Ordo Xenos, tests a Black Templar's faith and tolerance to their utmost limits. However, a Black Templar does not need to suppress his inherent nature to serve in the Death Watch. On the battlefield, his righteousness and zeal become his greatest weapons, enabling him to confront and vanquish the most terrifying enemies threatening the Imperium. The Black Templars have steadfastly adhered to the combat style established by their first High Marshal, favouring close-quarters melee combat over ranged warfare. This preference is reinforced by the fervour of the Black Templars' initiates, whose righteous fury makes them impulsive and aggressive. They hurl themselves at the enemy with tireless, focused brutality, shouting battle oaths as they tear their foes apart. Their intense hatred for Xenos Witchkin and rogue psychers drives them to purge these despised enemies wherever they are found. In warfare, a Black Templar's crusade typically employs two primary tactics. The first is orbital assault, utilizing drop pods and Thunderhawk gunships to execute a mass landing following a heavy orbital bombardment. Should enemy resistance remain strong after this initial strike, the Templars deploy their heavy armor and launch an armored spearhead against the weakest point in the enemy's defenses. As a testament to their dedication to the Emperor and their crusade, the Black Templars swear solemn oaths of faith and protection. Before battle, it is customary to renew one of these oaths, with each individual vow focusing on a specific aspect of the Battle Brothers' duties deemed essential for the success of the crusade. Given their profound distrust and hatred for the warp and anything associated with it, the Black Templars refuse to allow librarians or any beings with psychic powers to fight among their ranks or alongside them, with the sole exception of the Grey Knights. This deep-seated prejudice against psychers often causes friction between the chapter and other Imperial Adepta that frequently employ sanctioned psychers, such as the Inquisition or certain Astra Militarum regiments. The Land Raider Crusader variant of the standard Land Raider was developed by the Black Templars during the Garrulus Crusade to assist in the numerous Hive City sieges needed to reclaim that Hive world for the Emperor. As news of the design's success spread, many other chapters pressured the tech priests of Mars to release the construction schematics of the Crusader. Eventually, the design was officially recognized by the Adeptus Mechanicus in 763. M39, though by then over 3/4 of the chapters had already put Crusader pattern Land Raiders into effective use. The Land Raider Crusader is a formidable line-breaking main battle tank, built and armed to penetrate enemy formations and deliver its larger-than-normal contingent of Astartes directly into close combat. It is equipped with side-sponson-mounted hurricane bolters, a hull-mounted assault cannon and a multi-melter. By replacing the side-sponson-less cannons of the original Land Raider design with bolters, the Crusader sacrifices some anti-armor capability in favor of significantly increased troop-carrying capacity. It also features frag assault launchers to help pin down enemy units during an attack. Chapter Beliefs. All Space Marines are renowned for their fervent dedication, but the Black Templars' faith is often described as fanatical. Their ultimate goal is to annihilate every last enemy of mankind. The chapter harbours a special hatred for mutants, heretics and witches. This animosity stems from their founding, reflecting Sigismund's disdain for the heretic Astartes who betrayed their oaths and turned against the Imperium during the Horus heresy. As the Emperor's champion, Sigismund delivered the ultimate judgment on those who betrayed the master of mankind, executing them personally. This zeal to prosecute such crimes drives the Black Templars in their crusades across the galaxy and beyond, granting them the strength to face any foe. When a Black Templar's battle brother strikes down an enemy champion, he enacts the judgment of Sigismund, and through him the Emperor himself, continuing a tradition established during the Imperium's most terrible crisis. For 10,000 standard years, the Black Templars have crusaded to prove their loyalty. This creed has become so ingrained in their doctrines that they are utterly ruthless towards anyone or anything perceived as a threat to the Emperor. Unlike most other chapters of the Adeptus Astartes, the Black Templars revere the Emperor as the one true god of mankind, just as the mortals of the Imperium do, driving them to new heights of fanaticism. However, the Black Templars are first and foremost Space Marines, and their faith is superhuman in its focus and dedication. Their grueling rites are as demanding as their battle drills. To the Black Templars, ceremonial dedications to the Emperor and martial training are one and the same. The Black Templars have been known to mercilessly wipe out entire planetary populations to expunge the sin of heresy, and the mere presence of a witch on the battlefield drives them into an eager fury against which few enemies can stand. Their profound loathing of witches extends to psykers in the employ of the Imperium. Consequently, the Black Templars eschew the use of librarians, unwilling to have any of their brethren touched by the taint of the warp. When not engaged in battle, Black Templars are invariably preparing for it. They spend their time in prayer, meditation, or rigorous training rituals. Initiates entrusted with training a neophyte devote long hours to passing on their knowledge, supervising endless drills, practice sessions, and trials. The brethren often impose many hardships upon themselves, foregoing all but the bare necessities to purify themselves in the eyes of the Emperor and their Primarch, emulating the example of their founder, Sigismund. When serving alongside other Space Marine chapters, many Black Templars prepare themselves through long fasts and week-long vigils to tolerate the presence of Space Marine librarians. For those who serve in the Death Watch, fighting alongside a psyker is a particular hardship, a trial they must undergo to serve the Emperor more fully and strike down the hated alien. Great care is taken when selecting a Black Templar for secondment to the Death Watch. Only a brother, capable of containing his deep-seated intolerance against psykers, can fight to his full capacity. Even these individuals often spend every hour not fighting in deep contemplation and prayer, cloistering themselves away from their fellow Deathwatch brothers in a personal shrine to the Emperor Rogel Dawn and Sigismund. The battle brothers of the Black Templars are united by the fiery zeal that burns within each, a fire first sparked by High Marshal Sigismund himself, and stoked daily by the oratory of the chaplains and the exemplary texts each brother reads when not on active duty. While each Black Templar is driven by the same crusading devotion to utterly crush the enemies of the Emperor, there is some variation within the ranks. Recently initiated battle brothers might be driven to prove themselves in the eyes of their more experienced peers. Only when they have done so will they be granted the right and responsibility to train a neophyte themselves. Throughout his service as an initiate, the battle brother gains experience and wisdom. If he survives long enough and is judged worthy, he may enter the ranks of his marshal's household as a sword brother. These warriors have learned to temper their hatred with wisdom, serving as an example to the entire chapter. Smite now the scions of the witch, grant us the strength to pierce their unclean flesh, to cover their fields with the pale forms of their blasphemous dead, to drown the thunder of guns with the shrieks of their dying, to lay waste to their citadels with hurricanes of fire, to wring the hearts of their kin with unavailing grief, to send them into the wastes of their desolated lands in rags and hunger, broken in spirit, worn with travail and begging for the refuge of the grave. We ask it in the spirit of wrath, O Master of mankind. Black Templars vow, abhor the witch, destroy the witch. Outsiders often misinterpret the Black Templars chapter's lack of librarians. and the ferocity with which its battle brothers slay chaos sorcerers as an intolerance for all forms of psychers. This is far from the truth. The Black Templars hold astropaths in special reverence, viewing them as holy disciples who have communed with the God Emperor. Navigators are similarly honoured, as their psychic blessings allow them to see the divine light of the Astronomicon and guide the Black Templars through the warp, enabling them to deliver righteous retribution against the Emperor's enemies. The Black Templars' abhorrence is reserved for deviant alien witches and rogue psychers who embrace the blasphemous dark gods in their quest for power. These individuals threaten to drag entire worlds away from the Emperor's light and into damnation, as they are conduits through which unholy demons can enter the mortal realm. Therefore, the Black Templars strengthen their souls with the purity of their faith when facing rogue psychers. They strive to end the threat with a single sword stroke, preventing a potential demonic assault that could plunge the Emperor's realm into solar decades of bloodshed and madness. One unique aspect of the Black Templars' worship of the Emperor is their collection of reliquaries. As a fleet-based chapter without a proper homeworld, the High Marshal's battle barge and mobile fortress monastery, the Eternal Crusader, has become the chapter's spiritual epicenter. Refitted many times over the millennia, its massive expanse is filled with sacred relics, chapels, reliquaries, and devotional pieces. After each crusade, all Black Templars return here to renew their vows and add any newfound wonders to their already vast hoard. Some of these pieces date back to the Great Crusade: banners carried before the Emperor himself, a piece of the First Aquila, a blackened skull reportedly struck by the Emperor's scorching psychic energies, and thousands more. Aboard the Eternal Crusader lies the Hall of Records, a vast archive where a legion of scribes and servitors toil to record the history and deeds of the Black Templars' far-flung forces. Such duties of record-keeping would normally fall to a chapter's librarians, but the Black Templars chapter boasts not a single psychic space marine amongst their ranks. It is uncertain how or when the Black Templars ceased to field librarians, for with their disappearance much of the chapter's history was also lost. Outsiders suggest that as the chapter came to worship the Emperor as a god, unlike most of their fellow members of the Adeptus Astartes, they took his decree at the Council of Nicaea to disband the Space Marine Legion's Librarius Corps as holy law. Others whisper that the Black Templars' gene seed has somehow deteriorated, or that their librarians were slain during a great war in the chapter's history. Some scholars point to the Black Templars' final battle to end the Catalexis heresy in the 34th millennium and the apocalyptic psychic death scream that tore through the warp after the slaying of the Cacodominus as another possible explanation. Whatever the truth, the Black Templars have come to accept the loss of their librarians as part of the Emperor's divine plan. If the Emperor decides to once again bless the Black Templars with librarians, they will embrace it. Until that day, they will wage battle without these powerful warriors at their side. Black Templars have also developed some martial traditions of worship. Most Black Templars bind their weapons to their fists with devotion chains on the eve of battle, removing them only once victory is achieved. This tradition dates back to the Great Crusade. The custom of binding weapons with chains originated with the World Eaters when they were still the Loyalist 12 Legion. This practice eventually spread to other Space Marine legions after gaining popularity beyond the World Eaters' fighting pits. Sigismund, the first captain of the Imperial Fists, embraced this custom with fervour, securing his knightly weapons to his wrists with dense black chains. He made a notable name for himself, duelling with the 12 Legion's finest warriors within the bowels of Primarch Angron's flagship, Conqueror, late in the Great Crusade. Unlike the devotion chain, the chain of zeal is a permanent fixture. It is secured to both weapon and armour with a weld that lasts as long as the Space Marine serves. Removing a gauntlet with the chain still attached is a dishonourable act that brings great shame. So the wearer of the chain of zeal must keep his armoured glove and weapon in hand every minute for the rest of his days.